No one believed him. But what he unearthed in the backyard proved he was right. David Thompson wiped the sweat from his brow as he continued digging another hole in the backyard. For 2 years, everyone in the neighborhood had whispered that he had lost his mind ever since his wife Jennifer left without explanation, leaving only a scribbled note saying she needed to find herself. It was when his shovel hit something solid that his heart raced. Everyone thought he was crazy, but he always knew there was more to that story. "David, for heaven's sake, stop this madness," shouted Harold, his 70-year-old neighbor, watching from the fence that divided their yards. "It's not madness, Harold. I know she didn't leave of her own free will," replied David, continuing to dig with determination. Harold shook his head and went inside, muttering something about commitment. It was always the same thing. The neighbors talked behind his back. His children were ashamed, and even his own brothers avoided visiting him. David was 52 and had worked his whole life as a mechanic in the shop he inherited from his father. His calloused hands knew every type of screw, every engine part, but now they only served to wield that shovel which had become his inseparable companion. The house where he lived with Jennifer for 25 years was on a quiet street in the Hope Gardens neighborhood in Charlotte. It was a simple 2-bedroom house with a spacious backyard that Jennifer loved to tend. She planted roses, basil, and had a mango tree they planted together in their first year of marriage. "Dad, you have to stop this," said Rachel, his 28-year-old daughter, arriving from work and finding him still digging. Rachel worked as a nurse at the city hospital and was tired of hearing comments about her father at work. Colleagues whispered when she passed by, talking about the man who dug up the yard looking for his missing wife. "Rachel, my dear, I know it seems strange, but your mother didn't abandon this family. She's not that kind of person," said David, wiping the dirt from his hands. "Dad, she left a letter. She said she needed time, that she was going to travel to think about her life. It's been 2 years. Please accept it." David looked at his daughter with deep sadness. Rachel had inherited her mother's green eyes, but not her patience. She was more pragmatic, more direct, traits she inherited from him. "The letter was odd, Rachel. Your mother would never write some of those things. She loved our family too much to just leave like that." Rachel sighed. This conversation repeated every week. Her brother Daniel, 30 years old, had moved to New York precisely to escape the embarrassing situation his father was creating. "Dad, I'll make some coffee." "Come inside and let's talk properly," she said, trying to be kind. David nodded yes, but kept looking at the hole he had dug. It was about 3 feet deep and was located near the mango tree in the left corner of the yard. It was the 12th hole he had made in 2 years. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. That night, David couldn't sleep. He lay in the bed he had shared with Jennifer for so many years, staring at the ceiling and replaying for the 1,000th time the events of that fateful day. Jennifer had woken up normally that Tuesday morning 2 years ago. She made breakfast. They talked about plans for the weekend. She even mentioned she wanted to plant some new seedlings near the mango tree. When he returned from the shop that night, he found only a letter on the kitchen table. The letter said, "David, I need some time for myself. Don't look for me for a while. I'm going to travel and think about my life. It's no one's fault. It's my decision. Jennifer." From that day, he knew something was wrong. Jennifer never used the word while twice in the same sentence. She was careful with words. Besides, she always signed letters to the family as Jen, never as Jennifer. David got out of bed and went to the drawer where he kept the letter. He read it once more as he did every night. The handwriting was Jennifer's without a doubt, but something was out of place. The next morning he went back to the backyard. This time he decided to dig in a different spot, closer to the fence that divided the yard with the back house. Mrs. Dorothy lived there, an 80-year-old lady who had known Jennifer since they moved to the neighborhood. "Good morning, Mr. David," said Mrs. Dorothy, appearing at the kitchen window. "Good morning, Mrs. Dorothy. How are you getting along?" "Well, thank God. David, can I ask you a question?" "Of course, feel free. Do you really believe you'll find anything digging there?" David stopped and leaned on the shovel. Mrs. Dorothy had always been a direct person, but never cruel. If she was asking, it was because she had something to say. "I'm sure there's something wrong with Jennifer's disappearance, Mrs. Dorothy. I can't explain it well, but... David, sit here in the shade for a bit. I have something to tell you. They sat on the steps of Mrs. Dorothy's porch. She brought 2 glasses of ice water and was silent for a few minutes, as if organizing her thoughts. David, Jennifer had been talking to me in the weeks before she disappeared. She was worried about something, but she never told me exactly what. David's heart raced. It was the first time in 2 years that someone confirmed his suspicions that something was happening with Jennifer before she left. What did she talk about, Mrs. Dorothy? She asked if I knew any trustworthy attorney, said she might need some legal guidance about something, but didn't give me details. An attorney? But for what? I don't know, son. She also asked about a private medical clinic if I knew a good one. Said she wanted to get some more detailed tests done. This information was completely new to David. Jennifer had never mentioned needing an attorney or medical tests. She always took care of her health at the neighborhood health center and never had problems that required a private clinic. Anything else, Mrs. Dorothy? Yes. A week before she disappeared, a young woman, well-dressed in an imported car, came to my house. She talked with Jennifer on your porch for over an hour. They seemed to be discussing something serious. What woman? Jennifer never mentioned any visitor. I thought it was strange, too. Jennifer always told me about visitors. This time she didn't. And when the woman left, I saw that Jennifer was very upset. David stood up quickly. This information changed everything. It wasn't his paranoia. There really were things happening that he didn't know about. Mrs. Dorothy, can you remember any other detail about this woman? She was blonde, not very tall, probably around 30. The car was white, one of those compact ones, but I don't know the brand. David thanked her and went back home with his mind racing. For the first time in 2 years, he had concrete leads to follow. He wasn't crazy. There really was something he didn't know about Jennifer's last days at home. He decided to call Daniel in New York. Maybe his son knew something he had missed. "Hello, Dad. Did something happen?" answered Daniel with a worried voice. "Son, I need to ask you something important. In the last weeks before your mother left home, did you notice anything different about her?" Daniel was silent for a few seconds. "Dad, please, let's not go back to this story. Daniel, this is serious. Mrs. Dorothy just told me that your mother was looking for a lawyer and a private doctor. Did you know about this?" "No, I didn't. Dad, are you sure that an unknown woman visited your mother a week before she left? A blonde woman in an imported car?" Daniel was silent for longer this time. "Dad, now that you mention it, I remember that Mom called me about 3 times in the last few weeks. She seemed a bit nervous asking about some legal issues at work. I told her I didn't understand anything about law, and she said she would look for a lawyer. Legal issues at work. But what kind of issues? She didn't go into details. She said something about documents she needed to review, about some papers she had signed years ago. Jennifer had worked for 15 years as an administrative assistant at a private school in downtown Charlotte. It was a quiet job without complications. What documents could those be that she needed to review? Anything else, Daniel? Dad, she also asked me about bank accounts, if I thought it was better to have a separate account from yours for some personal transactions." "A separate bank account? But we always had a joint account. Why would she want a separate account?" "I don't know, Dad. At the time, I thought it was just a matter of financial organization." After the call, David sat in the living room and tried to organize the information. Jennifer looking for a lawyer, a private doctor, thinking about a separate bank account, receiving a visit from an unknown woman, all of this happening without him knowing anything. He decided that the next day he would go to the school where Jennifer worked to talk to the principal. Maybe there he would find more answers. St. Mary's School was in the city center, in an old but well-maintained building. David arrived there in the mid-afternoon when he knew that Mrs. Margaret, the principal, would be in her office. "Mr. David, what a surprise! How are you?" said Mrs. Margaret, a lady in her 60s who had always been very kind to him. "I'm well, Mrs. Margaret. I came here because I need to clarify some things about Jennifer." Mrs. Margaret's expression changed a little. She invited him to sit in her office. "Mr. David, I already told you and Rachel everything I knew when you came here right after Jennifer left." Yes, I know. But now I've learned some new things and wanted to confirm with you. What kind of things? Did Jennifer mention any problem with work documents? Any legal issue she needed to resolve? Mrs. Margaret hesitated for a moment. Well, now that you bring it up, yes. She came to talk to me about some old documents. What documents? A few years ago, when we changed the school's regulations, all employees had to sign new work terms. Jennifer was worried if she had signed everything correctly. And was there any problem? Not that I know of, but she insisted on reviewing all of her documentation. She even asked for copies of old contracts. Why would she be worried about that? I'm not sure. But she mentioned something about having discovered she had rights she didn't know she had. This information was intriguing. Jennifer had always been a person content with her job, never worried much about contractual matters. Why suddenly did she start getting interested in her labor rights? Mrs. Margaret, do you remember anything else? Any different behavior from Jennifer in the last few weeks? Well, she was making many calls from the school phone, long calls, and she always asked to use the teacher's lounge where there was more privacy. Who was she calling? I don't know, but I heard her saying lawyer and medical clinic a few times. David thanked her and left the school with even more questions than answers. Jennifer was clearly organizing something before leaving, but what? That night, he decided to search the house once more, looking for something he might have missed. He started in the bedroom, then the kitchen, the living room, until he reached the small office where Jennifer kept her personal papers. That's when he found something that made his heart race. At the back of a drawer behind some old medical prescriptions, there was a crumpled business card. It was from a law office downtown. Attorney Richard Foster, Labor and Civil Law. David held the card with trembling hands. It was the first physical evidence that Jennifer had actually sought out a lawyer. On the back of the card, there was a note in her handwriting. Appointment scheduled, Thursday, 10 a.m. He checked the calendar. The Thursday mentioned was exactly 1 week before she disappeared. Jennifer had gone to this lawyer 1 week before vanishing. The next morning, David went to attorney Richard Foster's office. It was in a commercial building downtown on the 12th floor. It was a modest but organized office. "Good morning, I'd like to speak with attorney Richard Foster," he said to the receptionist, a young woman with dark hair. "The attorney is in a hearing. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's about a very important case. My wife Jennifer Thompson was here a few weeks ago." The receptionist checked the schedule. "Jennifer Thompson, yes, she was here. But the attorney cannot give information about clients without authorization. But she is my wife and disappeared right after her consultation with him." The young woman seemed moved. "Let me speak with the attorney when he returns. Can you wait?" David waited for an hour until attorney Richard arrived. He was a man of about 40, well-dressed, with a professional yet approachable demeanor. "Mr. David, my secretary told me about your situation. I'm very sorry about your wife's disappearance. Attorney, I need to know what my wife came here for. It could be important to find out where she is." The lawyer took him to his office and closed the door. "Mr. David, normally I cannot reveal client information, but considering the circumstances, please, attorney, anything could help. Your wife came to me for a consultation about labor rights. She wanted to know if she was entitled to some compensation from the school where she worked." "What kind of compensation?" "Well, she brought me some old documents that suggested the school had made some irregular contractual changes years ago. If true, she and other employees would be entitled to considerable compensation." "Considerable how?" "We're talking about approximately $50,000 for each affected employee." David almost fell out of his chair. $50,000 was a lot of money for them. It was almost 3 years of Jennifer's salary. "And what happened with the case?" "Your wife asked me to investigate, but said she needed a few days to decide if she really wanted to proceed with the lawsuit. We scheduled a second meeting for the following week, but she never showed up." "Why would she hesitate to proceed?" "She was worried about possible retaliation from the school. She said she really liked working there and didn't want to cause trouble." "And the documents she brought?" "She took everything back. She said she wanted to show them to her husband before making a decision. But Jennifer had never shown any documents to him, and she never mentioned the possibility of suing the school. Why? Attorney, did my wife mention anything else? Any detail that might help? She seemed worried about something beyond the labor lawsuit. She asked about inheritance and will matters. Said she wanted to organize some personal papers. Inheritance. But we don't have significant assets to worry about inheritance. She mentioned a rural property she had inherited from her family years ago. She said she had never paid attention to it, but now she wanted to get the paperwork in order. David was perplexed. Jennifer had never mentioned inheriting any rural property. How was that possible? Doctor, do you have any idea where this property might be? She mentioned something about the countryside near Hot Springs, but didn't give specific details. David left the office with his head spinning. In just a few days, he had discovered that Jennifer was involved in legal, financial, and property matters he knew nothing about. And there was still the medical issue mentioned by Mrs. Dorothy. He decided to go to the notary's office in the neighborhood where Jennifer was born to investigate the inheritance issue. If there really was a rural property in her name, there should be records. The notary's office was on a busy street in downtown Charlotte. The notary, Mr. Robert, had known Jennifer's family for many years. David, good to see you. How is Jennifer? I haven't seen her in a long time. That's what I came to talk to you about, Mr. Robert. I need information about a possible inheritance from her family. Inheritance? What inheritance? Her attorney mentioned a rural property she supposedly inherited from her family years ago. Mr. Robert scratched his beard, thoughtful. David, let me check some old files here. He disappeared for a few minutes and returned with a yellowed folder. Yes, there is a record of an inheritance. When Jennifer's father passed away 15 years ago, she inherited a property in Hot Springs. But what? The property had documentation problems. There was a family dispute and the process was stalled for years. And now? From what I see here, the process was recently reopened. Someone filed a request to regularize the documentation about 2 months ago. Who filed the request? It's right here. It was Jennifer herself. David leaned on the counter. Jennifer had reopened an inheritance process 2 months before disappearing and hadn't told him anything. Mr. Robert, what would the value of this property be? Well, it's a small farm, about 20 hectares, but the area has appreciated a lot in recent years because of tourism. It must be worth about 200,000 reais, maybe more. 200,000 reais. Adding that to the 50,000 from the possible labor lawsuit, Jennifer was moving an amount of money that would completely change the family's life. Why was she doing all this in secret? Is there anything else in the files, Mr. Robert? Let me see. Oh, yes. She appointed an attorney to handle the process, a certain attorney Karen Mitchell. Attorney, who is this person? She's a lawyer specializing in land issues. She has an office right here in Charlotte. David wrote down the name and left the notary's office even more confused. Jennifer had hired a labor attorney and a lawyer for inheritance matters, all without him knowing. She was clearly organizing the family's finances, but why in secret? On the way home, he decided to stop by the neighborhood health clinic where Jennifer always went for appointments. Perhaps the medical issue mentioned by Mrs. Dorothy was related to the clinic. The head nurse, Nurse Patricia, had known Jennifer for years. Mr. David, we still have no news of Jennifer. How is she? That's what I came to talk to you about. I heard she had been looking for a private medical clinic. I wanted to know if she mentioned anything here. Well, she was here about 2 weeks before traveling. She asked for her medical records, all the tests from the last few years. Why did she want those records? She said she was going to see a private doctor for a second opinion on some tests. What kind of tests? Nurse Patricia hesitated. David, I don't know if I should talk about this. Please, Nurse Patricia. It might be important for finding my wife. She had some routine tests done a few months ago and seemed worried about the results. But Dr. Williams said everything was normal. What kind of worry? She asked about symptoms like forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating. Said she was feeling confused sometimes. David's stomach turned. Forgetfulness and confusion could indicate serious neurological problems. And what did Dr. Williams say? That it could be stress, overwork, vitamin deficiency? Common things for people her age. But she insisted there was something more. Did she even go to a private doctor? I don't know. She took all the documentation and said she was going to look for a neurologist. David left the clinic with a heavy heart. If Jennifer was having neurological problems, that would explain a lot of things. Maybe she left precisely because she discovered something serious about her health. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. Arriving home, he found Rachel in the kitchen preparing lunch. Dad, where have you been since early morning? David sat down and told her everything he had discovered during the day. The labor attorney, the inheritance, the regularization process, the medical exams. Rachel listened to everything in silence, her eyes wide. Dad, does this mean Mom was organizing everything before she left? It seems so. And there's still the medical issue. She was worried about forgetfulness and confusion. My God, why didn't she tell us any of this? I don't know, Rachel, but now I understand why I always knew something was strange. She was involved in several important matters. And now? What do we do with this information? David thought for a moment. Tomorrow I'm going to look for this inheritance attorney, Attorney Karen Mitchell. Maybe she knows where your mother is. That night, David went back to the backyard, but this time it wasn't to dig. He sat under the mango tree and tried to make sense of what he had discovered. Jennifer was organizing the family's finances, regularizing an inheritance, investigating possible labor rights, and looking for specialist doctors, all while maintaining the normal routine at home without showing that something was happening. The only explanation that made sense was that she had discovered something about her health that made her organize everything before leaving. But where had she gone? The next morning, David went to Attorney Karen Mitchell's office. It was in a commercial area of the city, in a modern building. Mr. David Thompson? Said the receptionist upon seeing his name in the appointment book. Actually, I don't have an appointment. I'm here on behalf of my wife, Jennifer Thompson. She hired Attorney Karen for an inheritance process. One moment, please. The receptionist spoke quickly with someone on the phone and then led him to a meeting room. Attorney Karen was a woman of about 40, blonde, elegant. David immediately recognized her from Mrs. Dorothy's description. She was the one who had visited Jennifer a week before she disappeared. Mr. David, what a surprise. Your wife told me a lot about you. Attorney, I need to know what happened between you and my wife. She disappeared right after your visit to my house. Attorney Karen's expression changed to one of concern. Disappeared? But she said she was going to talk to you about everything. Talk about what? About the inheritance, about her plans. What plans? Attorney Karen stood up and went to a filing cabinet. Mr. David, your wife came to me because she discovered she was entitled to a significant inheritance, but she was facing a complicated personal problem. What kind of problem? She had received a medical diagnosis that left her very frightened. David's heart raced. What diagnosis? Early signs of early-onset dementia. It was still in the beginning stages, but she was terrified of the possibility of becoming a burden to the family. David felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. Early-onset dementia. That explained everything. Is that why she was organizing the financial matters? Exactly. She wanted to make sure you all would be okay if she could no longer take care of herself. And the home visit? I went to deliver the inheritance documents and explain the whole process. She signed everything, we regularized the rural property, and she received the proceeds from the sale. Sale? She sold the property? Yes, for 220,000 reais. The money was deposited into an account she opened specifically for that. David leaned back in his chair. Jennifer had sold the inherited property and had over 200,000 reais in an account he knew nothing about. Where is that money now? She said she was going to talk to you about how to best use the money for the family. She had plans to buy a better house, invest in the children's education, but she never got to talk to me about any of this. That is very strange. She seemed determined to resolve everything as a family. She even asked me to prepare a power of attorney for you to manage her assets if she became incapacitated. Attorney Karen Mitchell showed the power of attorney Jennifer had signed. It was a legal document granting David authority to manage all her assets if she could no longer do so for health reasons. Doctor, do you have any idea where my wife might have gone? She mentioned she wanted to seek specialized treatment. She talked about a clinic in Hot Springs that was a reference for neurological problems. Hot Springs? The same region as the property she inherited? Exactly. She said she was going to get to know the city, since the family farm was around there, and take the opportunity to inquire about the treatment. David finally had a concrete lead about Jennifer's whereabouts. She had gone to Hot Springs. Doctor, could you give me the name of that clinic? St. Benedict's Clinic. It's a private institution specializing in neurological diseases and geriatrics, very well regarded. David left the office with a mixture of hope and apprehension. He finally knew where to look for Jennifer, but he also knew she was facing a serious health problem. When he got home, he immediately called Daniel. Daniel, I need you to come here urgently. I found out where your mother is. Dad, you found Mom? Not yet, but I know where she might be. And I found out why she left. David told his son everything, the medical diagnosis, the inheritance, the money, the clinic in Hot Springs. My God, Dad! Mom was sick and didn't tell anyone. It seems so, and she was organizing everything to protect us financially. Dad, I'm leaving New York right now. Let's go to Hot Springs to look for her. When Rachel got home from work, they told her everything too. She cried upon learning about her mother's diagnosis. Dad, I work in healthcare. Early onset dementia still has no cure, but there are treatments that can slow the disease's progress. So there's still hope. Yes, especially if it was discovered early, but it's crucial that she has family support. Why didn't she tell us? We would love and care for her no matter what. Rachel, maybe she didn't want to be seen as a burden, or maybe she was afraid of how we would react. The next morning, the three of them set off for Hot Springs. The city was about 2 hours from Charlotte, in a mountainous region known for its hot springs and senior tourism. St. Benedict's Clinic was located in an area away from the city center, surrounded by gardens and preserved woodland. It was a modern building, but with a welcoming appearance. Good morning, we'd like information about a patient, Jennifer Thompson, said David at the reception desk. One moment, please, replied the receptionist, checking the computer. Yes, we have a record for Mrs. Jennifer, but I need to verify if she has authorized visits. We are her family. I am her husband, and these are our children. The receptionist made a few calls and then asked them to wait. About 20 minutes later, a woman in a white coat appeared. Thompson family? I'm Dr. Susan, the physician in charge of Mrs. Jennifer. Doctor, how is my wife? Asked David anxiously. She is physically well. The diagnosis did confirm early signs of dementia, but she is responding well to treatment. Can I see her? Of course, but I need to prepare you for something. Mrs. Jennifer did not want you to know where she was. She feared being a burden to the family. That's absurd, Doctor. We love her and want to take care of her. I know. And that is exactly what I'm going to explain to her. Come with me. Dr. Susan led them through well-lit hallways to an internal garden at the clinic. There, sitting on a wooden bench reading a book, was Jennifer. David felt his legs go weak. Jennifer was thinner, her hair a bit grayer, but it was her. His Jennifer. When she saw them, she dropped the book and her hands went to her face. David, Rachel, Daniel, how did you find me? David ran to her and hugged her tightly. Jennifer, my love, why did you do this to us? She cried in his arms. I didn't want you to see me. Like this. Sick. Losing my memory. Jennifer, that doesn't matter. We love you. We will always love you. Rachel and Daniel also approached to hug their mother. Mom, why didn't you tell us about the illness? Asked Rachel. Because I'm afraid, my daughter. Afraid of forgetting you, of no longer recognizing the people I love. Mom, medicine has advanced a lot. There are treatments that can help, said Daniel. Dr. Susan approached. Mrs. Jennifer, as we've discussed several times, family support is crucial for the treatment. You don't have to face this alone. But I don't want to be a burden. Jennifer, interrupted David, you will never be a burden. You are my wife, the mother of my children, my life partner. We will face this together. And there's one more thing, Mom, said Rachel. Dad found out everything, about the inheritance, about the attorney, about the money you organized for us. Jennifer looked at David in surprise. You found out? I found out because I never believed you had abandoned us. I knew there was something more. How did you know where to look? By digging, Jennifer, literally digging for the truth. Everyone thought I was crazy, but I knew my wife wouldn't abandon the family without a very strong reason. Dr. Susan smiled. Mrs. Jennifer, your family's love for you is the best medicine there is. How about we discuss the possibility of you continuing treatment in Charlotte? There are excellent neurologists there too. That afternoon, they talked at length. Jennifer explained everything, how she had begun to notice the memory lapses, the fear she felt upon receiving the diagnosis, the decision to organize the family's finances before the illness progressed. I wanted you to be financially secure in case I could no longer contribute, she explained. Jennifer, money isn't what matters. What matters is that we are together, said David. But now you are in a much better financial situation because of what you organized, said Daniel. With the inheritance and the labor lawsuit, we can buy a bigger house more suitable for taking care of you. A labor lawsuit? Asked Jennifer. You had consulted attorney Richard Foster about labor rights. He said you might be entitled to 50,000 Rs, explained Rachel. Oh yes, I forgot to follow up on that. It was the first time she openly admitted forgetting something important. The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Mom, it's okay to forget some things. We'll be here to remember for you, said Rachel, holding her mother's hand. And we'll cherish every good moment we have ahead, added Daniel. Dr. Susan guided them about the treatment Jennifer should continue. It wasn't a cure, but there were medications that could significantly slow the disease's progress. With family support and proper medical care, she could have many years of good quality life ahead. That night, they stayed in Hot Springs and talked until late. Jennifer told them about the months she spent at the clinic, about how she had felt lonely even surrounded by medical care. The worst wasn't the illness, she said. The worst was thinking you would be disappointed in me or feel sorry for me. Jennifer, honey, we would never feel sorry for you. We would be afraid, yes, sad about the illness, yes, but we would also have love, hope, and determination to face everything together with you, said David. Dad, why were you so sure there was something more? Asked Daniel. Because I've known your mother for over 25 years. I know how she thinks, how she acts. The letter she left didn't sound like something she would write, and most of all, I know she would never abandon the family without a proper explanation. And that's why you kept digging up the yard? David smiled for the first time in a long while. I wasn't digging looking for your mother, Daniel. I was digging looking for the truth. I knew there was something buried in our life that needed to be uncovered, and in a way you found what you were looking for, said Rachel. Yes, I found the explanation for everything that didn't make sense. The next day they returned to Charlotte. Jennifer wanted to see the house, the yard, the mango tree they planted together. When they arrived, she looked at the various holes David had dug around the yard and started to laugh. David, look what you did to my garden. Sorry, honey, I was desperate looking for answers. At least now we know you dig holes better than I thought, she joked. The family decided to use the inheritance money to renovate the house, making it more suitable for Jennifer's future needs. They installed support bars, improved the lighting, and created a special little corner for her in the garden. The labor lawsuit indeed proceeded, and Jennifer, along with other school employees, received the compensation of 50,000 Rs. With this additional money, they managed to hire a caregiver to help on the more difficult days and invest in complementary treatment. The neighborhood, which once considered David crazy, now saw him as a hero. Mrs. Dorothy always commented, I knew there was something different about Jennifer's story. David was right from the start. Harold, the neighbor who always criticized the digging habit, came to apologize. David, I owe you an apology. You always knew there was something more. No need to apologize, Harold. I understand it seemed like madness. But you didn't give up. That's what someone who truly loves does. Attorney Richard Foster was impressed when he learned the full story. Mr. Thompson, in 20 years of law practice, I've never seen determination like yours. Your wife is lucky to have a husband like you. Actually, Doctor, I'm the lucky one to have a wife who, even ill, thought of protecting the family before thinking of herself. Jennifer returned to work at the school, but with reduced hours. Mrs. Margaret was very understanding and adapted her duties so she could continue to feel useful without becoming overwhelmed. Jennifer, you have always been an exemplary employee. Now that we know the situation, we will do everything to make you feel comfortable here, said the principal. The medical treatment showed promising results. Although the disease could not be cured, its progression was significantly slowed. Jennifer continued to recognize her family and maintain her essential personality for much longer than would have been expected without treatment. Dr. Susan explained that the family's emotional support was as important as the medication. Mrs. Jennifer is responding exceptionally well to treatment. The love and security she feels at home are fundamental to this. Rachel decided to specialize in geriatric care to better help her mother and other families in similar situations. Dad, seeing what a family can do when united by love inspired me to change my career. I want to help other people like us. Daniel began visiting more frequently, spending every weekend in Charlotte. I don't want to miss any good moments with Mom. Every day is important now. The mango tree in the backyard became Jennifer's favorite spot for her afternoons. David filled in all the holes he had dug and planted flowers in those places. The yard transformed into a therapeutic garden where she felt at peace. David, you know your yard has never looked so beautiful, she would say, smiling. It's because now it's complete, Jennifer. It has you back in it. In the most difficult moments when Jennifer had episodes of confusion, David would take her to sit under the mango tree and tell stories of when they met, when they planted the tree, of their first years of marriage. Even if I forget some things, I will never forget that you didn't give up on me, she would say in moments of lucidity. And I will never forget that you tried to protect me even when you were scared. That is true love, Jennifer. The story spread through the community and inspired other families. Several people sought out David to share similar situations where family intuition had revealed important truths. A neighbor named Mrs. Eleanor shared that her husband had also disappeared, leaving only a letter, and that she had always been suspicious of the explanation. Inspired by the Thompson story, she decided to investigate further and discovered he had been hospitalized with depression but had lied about the reasons to not worry the family. Mr. David, your story gave me the courage to seek the truth. I found my husband and now we are taking care of his depression together, she said. Dr. William, from the health center, changed his protocols after Jennifer's case. I learned that when a patient insists something is wrong, even if the tests seem normal, I should investigate more deeply. The intuition of patients and family members is valuable. David became an informal reference in the community for families dealing with neurological diseases. He always said, "True love does not accept mysteries without explanation. When someone we love acts strangely, there is always an important reason behind it." 3 years later, Jennifer was still well, maintaining her cheerful and caring personality. Although she had difficult days, the good moments far outweighed the hardships. On a special afternoon, they renewed their wedding vows under the mango tree, with the whole family present. "David, thank you for not giving up on me when even I didn't believe I deserved to be searched for," Jennifer said during the simple ceremony. "Jennifer, thank you for teaching me that true love sometimes means protecting the ones we love, even when it causes us pain," he replied. The priest who conducted the renewal ceremony remarked, "In 50 years of performing weddings, I have never seen a love as deep and determined as this one." Rachel met a doctor during her specialization and married 2 years later. At the wedding reception, she made a point of honoring her parents. "My parents taught me that true love never gives up, that when we truly love someone, our intuition guides us to protect that person. I want my marriage to be like that too." Daniel decided to return to Charlotte permanently and open his own business in the city. "I discovered that family is what truly matters in life. I don't want to be far from my parents." especially now that we know how precious every moment is. Attorney Karen Mitchell became a family friend and would always comment on the case as an example of love and determination. The Thompson family taught me that sometimes people do things that seem inexplicable, but are in fact acts of deep love. Jennifer tried to protect the family, and David protected Jennifer by not accepting her departure without explanations. Attorney Richard Foster's office began using the family's story as an example of how persistence can reveal important truths. The Thompson case shows that when our intuition tells us something is wrong, it's worth investigating. Love gives us a special perception about the people we love. At school, Jennifer became an example of overcoming adversity. Even with the limitations imposed by the illness, she continued to contribute and feel valued. Mrs. Margaret always said, "Jennifer taught us that a person is worth so much more than their limitations. She is still the same wonderful person she always was." The family's backyard became an informal pilgrimage site for couples with problems. David and Jennifer received people who came seeking advice about relationships and difficult family situations. A young couple, Ashley and Brian, sought them out when she began acting strangely after discovering she was pregnant. She started to pull away, creating conflicts over small things. "I'm starting to think she doesn't love me anymore," Brian shared. "Son, people sometimes pull away when they are afraid or worried about something they can't express. Talk to her, investigate what's really going on," advised David. Ashley was afraid of being a mother because she had lost her own mother very young and thought she wouldn't know how to care for a baby. When they managed to talk openly, they decided to seek help together. "You saved us," Ashley said months later with the baby in her arms. "If it weren't for your advice, I would have lost my marriage out of fear." Jennifer became a sort of borrowed grandma for several neighborhood children. Even with the limitations of the illness, she had a special patience with the little ones. "The children don't mind that I sometimes forget things. They just want affection and attention that I can always give," she said. A girl named Emma, daughter of a single neighbor who worked a lot, spent her afternoons with Jennifer. She helped Mrs. Jen remember things, and Jennifer helped her with her homework. "Mrs. Jen, when I grow up, I want a husband who loves me like Mr. David loves you," Emma said one day. "And you will, my dear, just accept being loved by someone who never gives up on you." 5 years after the reunion, the family decided to write a book telling their story. Rachel suggested the idea as a way to help other families. "Our story can give hope to people who are going through similar situations," she said. The book, Digging for the Truth, A Story of Love and Persistence, became a regional success. Several families reported that reading it inspired them to investigate strange situations in their own lives. A woman named Barbara shared that her teenage son had started acting strangely, avoiding the family. Inspired by the Thompson family's story, she decided to investigate instead of simply fighting with him. She discovered the boy was being bullied at school and was ashamed to tell his family. When they managed to resolve the situation together, the family relationship grew much stronger. The Thompson family's story taught me that when someone we love changes their behavior, we should seek the cause with love, not judgment, said Barbara. The book reached other people dealing with neurological diseases. A family from Washington made contact to share that the story gave them strength to face their father's Alzheimer's. "You showed us that love can overcome any obstacle and that we should never give up on the people we love," they wrote in the letter. David began giving talks at hospitals and clinics about the importance of family support in cases of neurological diseases. Medicine takes care of the body, but it's the family's love that takes care of the soul. And a strong soul helps the body react better to treatment, he would say in his talks. Dr. Susan always invited him to speak with families who were receiving difficult diagnoses. Mr. David has a unique ability to convey hope without minimizing the difficulties. He shows it's possible to find happiness even in challenging situations. Jennifer, on her good days, also participated in the talks, sharing her perspective on accepting help and not carrying guilt for the illness. "I learned that trying to protect the people we love by hiding our problems actually hurts more than it helps. True love grows stronger when we face difficulties together," she would say. Her testimony especially moved other women in the same situation. A lady named Betty sought out Jennifer after a talk. sharing that she had hidden a cancer diagnosis from her family. "Mrs. Jennifer, you made me understand that my family has the right to know and support me. I can't make that decision for them." "You're right, Betty. Give your family the chance to show the love they feel for you. They will surprise you with their strength." Betty told her family and was amazed by the support she received. Her treatment was much more effective with her family's emotional support. The Thompson family's story inspired the creation of a support group for families dealing with neurological diseases in Charlotte. The group met monthly at their own home, in the garden that was once full of holes and was now flower-filled and welcoming. "Our backyard became a place of hope," David would comment. "Where there were once empty holes, now there are flowers and stories of overcoming." A participating family, the Silver family, shared that their 20-year-old son had developed epilepsy and completely isolated himself from the family. "He thought he was a burden to us," said the mother, Mrs. Grace. With the group's support and following the Thompsons' example, they managed to show the young man he was loved regardless of the illness. He returned to his studies and now works at a company that values inclusion. "The group taught us that a family's love is the best medicine for any illness," said Mrs. Grace. Another participant, Mr. John, was caring for his wife with Parkinson's. He was exhausted and thinking of placing his wife in a clinic. "Mr. David showed me that caring for someone we love is not a burden, it's a privilege, and that we can ask for help without giving up our role as caregivers," John shared. With the group's support, John managed to organize a care network that included family, neighbors, and professional caregivers, allowing his wife to stay at home with a good quality of life. The group also developed a resource bank where families shared information about doctors, treatments, equipment, and care strategies. Alone, each family reinvents the wheel. "Together, we can share knowledge and support," explained Rachel, who coordinated this initiative. 7 years after the reunion, Jennifer still had frequent moments of lucidity. On a special morning, she woke up particularly clear-headed and asked to speak with each family member separately. To David, she said, "Thank you for never doubting our love. Even when I doubted, you kept the certainty. That gave me the strength to keep fighting." To Rachel, "My daughter, thank you for turning our pain into knowledge to help others. You made our story worthwhile." To Daniel, "My son, thank you for coming back close to the family. Your presence makes each day more special." That afternoon, sitting under the mango tree, Jennifer looked at the flowering backyard and commented, "David, do you remember when we planted this mango tree?" "I do, my love. You said you wanted a tree that would grow along with our love. And it really did grow, didn't it? It became even stronger after the storm." David understood she was referring to the storm of the illness they faced together. "All trees that survive storms become stronger, Jennifer, like our love." That night, they renewed their marriage vows once more, in an intimate ceremony just for the family. "I promise to keep loving you in every moment, on clear days and difficult days, in health and in sickness, in memory and in forgetting," said David. "I promise to keep trusting in your love, even when I forget other things, because true love is unforgettable," replied Jennifer. The Thompson family's story continued to inspire people not only in Charlotte, but across the country. Letters arrived from various cities, telling how the story had touched other families. One especially moving letter came from a small town in Louisiana. "Thompson family, my name is George and I am 70 years old. My wife disappeared a year ago, leaving only a note. Everyone told me to give up, that she had abandoned me. After reading your story, I decided to investigate. I discovered she was suffering from severe depression and had checked herself into a psychiatric clinic. I managed to find her, and now we are taking care of the depression together. Thank you for teaching me that true love never accepts mysteries without explanation." Stories like this arrived weekly, showing how persistence motivated by true love can reveal important truths and save relationships. A young couple from Miami wrote, "Our teenage daughter started behaving strangely, lying about where she was going. We were going to punish her severely when we read your story. We decided to investigate with love instead of punishing with anger. We discovered she was doing volunteer work at a daycare but was ashamed to tell us because she thought we wouldn't understand. Now we support her work and our relationship has grown stronger. The letters showed that the principle of the Thompsons' story, to investigate with love when something seems strange, was applicable to many situations in family life. Rachel decided to pursue a master's degree in family psychology, using her own family's experience as the basis for her research. "I want to scientifically study how family intuition can be a diagnostic tool and how family support influences the treatment of neurological diseases," she explained. Her research confirmed that families with strong emotional bonds are more effective at detecting early behavioral changes, allowing for faster diagnoses and more effective treatments. "Science is proving what Dad always knew. Love gives us a special perception about the people we love," said Rachel while defending her thesis. Daniel became a successful businessman but always kept family as his priority. He founded a technology company focused on family care solutions. "I develop apps that help families organize medical care, share treatment information, and maintain emotional connection even from a distance," he explained. One of the most successful apps was Family Memories, which helps people with dementia stay connected through photographs, videos, and family stories. "I was inspired by Mom to create something that could help other families like ours," said Daniel. The app became an international reference in assistive technology for people with neurological diseases. 10 years after the reunion, Jennifer began to show clearer signs of the disease's progression, but even so she remained the same loving and affectionate person. In one of her last moments of complete lucidity, she gathered the family in the backyard for a special conversation. "I want you all to know that these have been the happiest years of my life," she said, "not because of the illness, but in spite of it. You showed me that being loved unconditionally is the greatest gift anyone can receive." "Mom, you also taught us so much about unconditional love," Rachel replied. "Yes, Jennifer, you taught us that loving someone means never giving up on that person, even when they give up on themselves," added David. "And you taught us that a real family faces everything together," Daniel completed. That night Jennifer slept peacefully, surrounded by the family that never stopped searching for her, even when she tried to hide out of love. The next morning, she woke up more confused, but still recognizing the love surrounding her. From that day on, David intensified the care, always whispering in her ear, "Jennifer, you are home, with people who love you." Even in the most difficult moments of the illness, when she no longer recognized people by name, Jennifer seemed to feel the love around her. She smiled when David sang their favorite songs, relaxed when Rachel brushed her hair, and grew calm when Daniel told stories. Dr. Susan, who continued to follow the case, always commented, "Jennifer is having a much smoother progression of the disease than we normally see. The family's love is literally working as medicine." The backyard where David had tirelessly dug became a sanctuary. He planted a rosebush for each year they spent together and placed a bench beside the mango tree, where they renewed their wedding vows every year. "This place started as a symbol of my despair. It became a symbol of our hope," David would tell visitors. A plaque in the garden read, "Garden of Perseverance, where true love never gives up." Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out, now continuing. 15 years after that fateful morning when Jennifer left only a letter, the Thompson family had become a symbol of love, perseverance, and family unity throughout the region. The support group they created had already helped over 200 families. The book had been translated into other languages. David's lectures were requested at medical conferences. But for them, none of that mattered as much as the simple moments in the garden, caring for Jennifer and celebrating each day they had together. On a special afternoon, when Jennifer was having a particularly good day, she looked at David and said clearly, "David, do you remember why I left? I remember, my love, you were afraid of being a burden to us. And now? Am I a burden?" David held her hands and looked into her eyes. "Jennifer, you never were, and never will be a burden. You are my wife, my partner, my love. Taking care of you is not an obligation, it's a privilege. Even when I don't remember things, especially when you don't remember things, because then I can be your memory. And you don't get tired? Jennifer, did you get tired of loving me through my 30 years of irritating habits? She laughed, a genuine, crystalline laugh. Never. Then understand that I will also never tire of loving you, no matter what challenges life brings. That night, Jennifer had what would be one of her last moments of complete lucidity. She called each family member for a final conversation. To Rachel, she said, "My daughter, thank you for turning our pain into knowledge. You made our story into something that helps others. Keep being that special person." To Daniel, "My son, thank you for coming back home. Family is what matters in life, and you understood that. Be happy, but never forget the importance of being present for those you love." To David, "My love, thank you for never giving up on me, for digging not just the yard, but deep into the truth until you found me. You saved me not only from the illness, but from fear and loneliness. I have loved you for 25 years, and I will keep loving you even when I can no longer say it." The next morning, Jennifer entered a more advanced stage of the illness, but the family continued to care for her with the same love and dedication. David developed special rituals for each moment of the day. In the morning, he would sing the song they danced to at their wedding while helping her get ready. In the afternoon, he would read letters she had written years before, recounting their memories together. In the evening, he would show photo albums, retelling family stories. "Even if she doesn't understand the words, I know she feels the love," he would explain to people who visited them. Rachel organized a care schedule that allowed everyone in the family to participate actively without overburdening anyone. Taking care of Mom is a responsibility for all of us, but it's also a joy for all of us, she would say. Daniel created a visual communication system with symbols and colors that helped Jennifer express herself even when she couldn't form words. "If she can't speak with us, we'll find other ways to talk with her," he explained. The backyard continued to be a place of pilgrimage for families seeking inspiration. David always welcomed everyone, telling the story and giving advice. "The secret isn't to never give up," he would say. "The secret is to understand that true love manifests in persistence, patience, and constant presence." One afternoon, a young woman arrived crying, saying her husband had completely changed his personality after an accident. "He's not the same person anymore, Mr. David. I don't know if I still love him." "My dear, true love doesn't just love the personality, it loves the person's soul. Your husband's soul is still there, even if hidden by the injury. Your task is to help him find it again." 6 months later, the woman returned with her husband, smiling. With patience and love, she had helped him readjust and discover a new version of himself, equally kind. "You saved my marriage," she said. "You taught me that true love is about choosing to love the person every day, regardless of the circumstances." Stories like this multiplied, showing how the Thompson family's example inspired other people not to give up on important relationships in their lives. A businessman from New York sought out David to say he was about to get a divorce because his wife had developed severe anxiety disorder. "She's no longer the cheerful woman I married. She's always worried, can't leave the house, doesn't participate in family activities." "And you? Are you still the same man she met?" asked David. "What do you mean?" "Life changes all of us. You aren't exactly the same either. The question is, will you grow together through these changes, or will you use the changes as an excuse to separate?" The man became thoughtful. With support and guidance, he learned about anxiety and how to help his wife. Today they have an even stronger marriage. "You taught me that challenges can strengthen a relationship if faced with love and understanding," he said during a later visit. 18 years after the reunion, Jennifer was still with the family, surrounded by love and care. Although she no longer spoke, her eyes still shone when she recognized familiar voices. The garden had become a living memorial of perseverance. Each plant represented a family that had been inspired by their story: red roses for couples who overcame crises, white lilies for families who found missing loved ones, sunflowers for people who conquered depression. "Our backyard became a map of the love stories we helped save," David commented. The original mango tree had grown majestic, providing shade for dozens of people who came seeking advice and inspiration. David had placed a circular bench around the trunk where he received visitors. This tree grew along with our love. It started small-faced storms but never stopped growing, like all true love, he said. Rachel had become a national reference in family care for neurological diseases. Her clinic served families from across the country, always emphasizing the importance of love and persistence in treatment. Traditional medicine treats the disease, but family love treats the person. And it's the person that matters, she taught in her classes. Daniel had expanded his apps to other countries, helping families worldwide maintain connection during neurological disease treatments. Technology should serve to bring people closer, not push them apart, he said, especially when the time we have together is precious. On a special autumn afternoon, when the mango tree leaves had turned yellow and there was a golden light in the garden, Jennifer had a moment of extraordinary clarity. She looked at David and said with a weak but clear voice, "Thank you for digging until you found me." They were her last lucid words, but they were words that validated the entire journey they had traveled together. David held her hand and replied, "Thank you for being worth every hole I dug." That night, Jennifer slept deeply, a peaceful sleep of someone who knew she was exactly where she should be, surrounded by the people who never gave up searching for her, even when she tried to hide out of love. The family continued caring for her with the same dedication. Even without words, she still responded to affection with subtle smiles and gentle hand squeezes. Dr. Susan commented that Jennifer was having one of the smoothest progressions of dementia she had ever monitored. The family's love is literally working as medicine. She feels safe and loved, and that makes all the difference in her well-being. The support group they created kept growing. They had already helped more than 500 families in similar situations. Every month, they organized meetings in the Thompsons' garden, where experiences were shared and new bonds formed. "You created a network of love that goes far beyond your family," said Mrs. Eleanor, one of the group's first participants. A plaque on the house gate read, "Thompson Family Home, where love never gives up." People came from far away just to see the place where a story of love and persistence had changed so many lives. A journalist from a national magazine did a special feature on the family titled, "The Man Who Dug Up the Backyard and Found True Love." The story resonated nationwide, inspiring a documentary and even a movie based on the family's true story. "We never imagined our personal story would have such an impact," commented Rachel. "But perhaps it's because it shows that true love still exists and can overcome any obstacle." 20 years after that first morning when Jennifer left only a letter, the Thompson family had become a national symbol of love, persistence, and family unity. Jennifer, now 72, was still with them. Although the illness had progressed, she continued to be cared for with love at home, surrounded by the family that never gave up on her. On a special spring morning, when the garden was in bloom and there was a sweet scent in the air, Jennifer had her last moment of recognition. She looked at David with clarity in her eyes and smiled. She didn't speak any words, but the smile carried 25 years of shared love, 2 years of painful separation, and 18 years of blessed reunion. David understood the message in that smile perfectly. It was worth being found. He smiled back, conveying his own message. It was worth never stopping the search. That afternoon, sitting in the garden that was once full of empty holes and was now blooming with love stories, David reflected on the extraordinary journey they had lived. He had started by digging up the backyard, looking for answers, being called crazy by the neighbors and even by his own children. But his intuition was right. There was more to Jennifer's story. What he didn't imagine was that by searching for his wife, he would find much more than he expected. He found a love story that would inspire thousands of people. He found a family that became more united through difficulties. He found a greater purpose for their lives. Most importantly, he found proof that true love not only exists, but has the power to transform lives, heal wounds, and give meaning to the greatest challenges of human existence. As he watched Jennifer resting peacefully under the mango tree they had planted together 25 years earlier, David smiled. The backyard no longer had empty holes. Instead, it had a blooming garden where hundreds of families came seeking inspiration and hope. "Jennifer," he whispered, "do you remember when we planted this mango tree? You said you wanted a tree that would grow along with our love. Look how it has grown, and look how many people have found shade under it." The wind gently rustled the leaves of the mango tree, as if the tree itself were agreeing. And in that moment, David knew he had fulfilled the promise he made on their wedding day, to love Jennifer in sickness and in health, in joy and in sorrow, in memory and in forgetfulness, until life itself parted them. But he also knew that not even life would be able to separate a love like theirs. Because true love, once planted and nurtured with dedication, grows beyond human limitations and becomes eternal. People would continue to come to the Thompson family garden, seeking inspiration for their own loves, and they would find, under the leafy mango tree, living proof that it is worth never giving up on the one you love. The story of the man who dug up the backyard and proved he was right had become much more than a personal story. It had become a testament that true love not only exists, but has the power to move mountains, dig oceans of doubt, and plant gardens of hope where there was once only barren land. And it all began with a man who refused to accept a mystery without an explanation, because deep in his heart he knew his wife would never abandon the family without a very important reason. A man who dug tirelessly, not just into the dirt of the backyard, but deep into the truth, until he found the love he was searching for. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story. Do you believe David made the right decision by never giving up on searching for Jennifer? Leave your opinion in the comments. We love reading your sincere reflections. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories like this one. Thank you so much for your company.